Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Minority Reports podcast and digital series. I am your host, Mona Sheikh, you guys. What's happening? It's so nice and hot outside that I'm wearing a dress. I was like, oh my God, it's 85 degrees today. It's 85 degrees. Thank God. Thank God for hot. Thank God for heat. However, I have my special guest today. Not only is he a dear friend, but he's also an incredibly talented producer and an incredibly talented director. And he's bringing on the heat because he recently came off directing a few episodes of The Blacklist, and we're going to talk to him about it. Here's my very talented friend, Mahesh Pailoor. How are you?
Hey, Mona. I'm doing great.
Oh, man. So nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Man, congrats on The Blacklist.
Thank you. And congrats to you on the rookie.
Thank you.
It's all happening now, which is great.
Slowly but surely, brown people are churning it into butter. You know. Mahesh, how many? First of all, when were you shooting The Blacklist? When were you directing it, and how many episodes?
Yeah, well, my first episode was actually last year, and it was right before New York lockdown. So my last episode was like March. I think it ended March 12th or something like that. So
my God.
Yeah, so it was the last episode that fully shot for The Blacklist. And then it shut down. And then I didn't work until about another month and a half ago when I went back for my next episode. Yeah, so it was kind of crazy.
That's crazy. So this was your second episode.
Second episode, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is that like, Mahesh, as a South Asian director to, walk on on a primetime network and be the captain of the ship? What is that like?
Okay. So I think, there's some misconception. Well, the way I look at directing too, it's not like you're necessarily this, the one all-seeing person who's making all the decisions. There's so many people who are doing it, and you're kind of a conduit. So, the way I always look at it, I'm a pretty collaborative person. So it's not like I'm walking on it's my way or the highway. So it's always, working with everyone and trying to get the best out of people. That's what I do. So for me, it was just great. What I loved about being on The Blacklist, it was actually such a collaborative environment, and everyone was excited. And I had shadowed on that show last year for 3 episodes. So everyone knew who I was. Okay. Everyone wanted, me to succeed. So it was a very a welcoming environment. So that was great. I haven't been on a show where I didn't know anyone yet. That'll be the next step. But right now, so The Blacklist felt like going home, which was really nice.
That's awesome. Mahesh, when you show up on the set, is there any? I asked Sharat that because last week he was on as a director, and I wanted to ask you: is there a thing where it's just there's a South Asian director versus there's just a director?
I think I feel something for sure. I think, it's even my name, I'll notice that no one will want to say my name,
Oh, interesting.
And it takes a while, and then sort of people get used to it, but I think people just don't want to mispronounce it or whatever it is, those kinds of things. But I noticed that, I'll know everyone's name. That's part of my job, right? Is to just know it. So I call everyone's name out. But I notice they won't say my name back, which is always such an interesting thing. So there is that, but I think after, once you start working and once you start a relationship with people, then everything kind of goes away. But the first, I think, perception, I think who is this person? Where did they come from? And I think sometimes right now is how did they get this job? Kind of comes into play too.
You sense that, or somebody has said that and you've overheard them saying that?
No, I think because there is a sea change that's happening in the industry, right? And you can definitely feel it in television, right? Whether it's a mandate or I think it's just culturally, there are more opportunities for women directors, minority directors. That's happening. And so you're seeing these sets change, maybe 5 years ago, it doesn't look like the set that it is today, Sure. And I think that when you see, I think crews are seeing that happen, and getting used to it. And a lot of these things happen because of, there, like I said, there are mandates that happen at studios, but there's also these, directing programs that kind of help get you in. And so I think sometimes there's people look at you how did you get this? Did you get in just because you're South Asian? Which is always, a problem. I've been doing this for a long time. It's not so I feel like I've earned it. But I think you get that too. You kind of feel that.
Yeah. I mean, Mahesh, how long have you been a producer and a director for?
Oh my goodness. Well, for a very long time. I mean, this is all I've ever done. For one thing. I mean, I've done just even since growing up. I mean, I always wanted to be a filmmaker, so I went to film school at NYU. I went to film school at the AFI here in LA, and then just been working. So this is, I don't know, years. I mean, we're talking like 20 years that I've been sort of like at this. It's been a long time. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, Mahesh, now, just like you said, there's this big initiative, right? Studios have been called out, networks have been called out, shows are being called out to be like, hey, representation just doesn't matter in front of the camera. It also matters behind the camera. It matters in executive places, decision-making spots, right? Those are all big contributing factors. So for you, I mean, do you see a more influx of opportunities in the last 5 years, in the last 2 years? What are you thinking?
For me personally, it's definitely been the last like 2 years. And again, I've been here for a long time, and you can argue lots of different things or reasons why something doesn't propel you to the next stage. But let's say I made a feature film, this was a while ago, like 7 years ago, called Brahmin Bulls. That starred mainly South Asian actors. The lead was Sendhil Ramamurthy from Heroes, now on Never Have I Ever. Roshan Seth, who some people might know from Gandhi, incredible actor. But there's also Mary Steenburgen and Justin Bartha. So there's a bunch of actors. And that film, I think didn't at that time, 7 years ago, didn't register the same way that I think it might today. So I don't know that I got the same kind of opportunities that today I have. So to answer your question, I think things have changed a lot in the last 2 to 3 years. You can see it happening just more and more. I mean, and your experience too. Like, I mean, it's and the thing that's interesting for me too. It's like, and as you said, it's like in front of the camera and it's behind the camera, and it's a lot of the people who are making decisions, where you're seeing things happen and things are changing, and you can feel like. For me, it's not just representation, right? Like that's one thing, and we can talk about that too, because I remember just growing up, that was just not the case. You never saw brown faces on TV, and that obviously has an effect on all of us. But now too, I just feel like even on a set, and I'll just bring up the example. It's like on even the Blacklist, it's just you see a change in terms of, it's a more ingratiating, warmer set. And not because of me, but there are more women that are in positions of power on the show. And even as an example, it's like, and this is, everyone can kind of understand this. It's like, working in production are long days. It's a hard job for a lot of people.
That's right.
But because one of the producers, like one of her priorities is that people also have a life. So you try to wrap early. You get people home so they can spend time with their families, and people appreciate that. There's nothing wrong with that. We can do both. And I don't think you see any kind of there's nothing lacking in the show. We still make a great show, and people still go home to see their families. So that's a great thing to do. And so because of that, I think there's a cultural shift that's happening, and that wasn't the case probably 10 years ago. People would just be working nonstop. So anyway, that's just one example.
I mean, Mahesh, when I did, I was shooting for One Day on the Rookie, but I was like, man, I can't imagine waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week, and doing this. I mean, this is exhausting. I never take naps. I took a nap in my trailer, and I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm taking a nap. I never take naps. I can never shut off this Japanese game show in my head. I could just never just turn it out. Have you ever seen Japanese game show? There's so much going on. That's my brain, and I'm like,
I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh my God. And I was like, I was exhausted, and I was like, man, how do people do this? Why would you work in production? I mean, this is exhausting.
That's hard. Yeah.
Mahesh, I was thinking about this, on screen, and when you see stuff on television or film, or like for you directing, episodes of the Blacklist, people see that and they're like, wow, that's a sexy job. Ooh, that's hot. That's sexy. But people don't really understand. Just like you said, 20 years got put in for you to go and get that gig, right? Yeah. I mean, I've been in this business for well over 15 years. It's taken me this long to start getting these breaks.
Yeah.
Like the behind the scenes is so unsexy that people get lost in the on-screen sexiness. Do you think?
100%, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard job and it's a hard lifestyle. You know, like everything that we kind of go through, it is that roller coaster. Sometimes you're working, sometimes you're not, and you have to navigate that.
That's right.
And we're all dreamers, right? We all have that dream of what we want to do, and sometimes you go pretty far off that path. Sometimes you get closer to it, but it's like it's a harder thing that I think we navigate because there's no path, right? There's no like.
That's right.
There's no one way to do it. It's not like I mean, so many other jobs are hard too, and but like there might be, you go to med school, you do a residency, and then we don't have that. It's like we just have an idea or dream, and then we kind of go for it, and then
right.
And sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's the hard thing,
That's right. I mean, there's no guarantee. Like if you go to school for becoming a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, there's a guarantee that you will get a job at the end of those years. Yeah. There is no guarantee that Mahesh Pailoor can put in 20 years and Mona Shaikh can put in 20 years, and then there'll be a career waiting for us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Zero. Yeah, zero net. And I think a lot of people, who are also of our cultural background, think that this is like some kind of like sexy thing. Like, oh yeah, like people think that stand-up comedy, you just get up there and you just start running your mouth. It's like, yeah, you can. Doesn't mean it's funny. Doesn't mean it's hilarious. Doesn't mean it's entertaining. You can get up and run your mouth all you want. It doesn't mean you're a stand-up. And I think it's the same thing. Like, how did Mahesh get that job as a director? He put in 20 fucking years of his life in it. That's how he got that job. He's an experienced director. I mean, Mahesh, even I think the first time you and I met, and you did the documentary on me, the mini doc that you did. Yeah. It was so lovely. First of all, it has been just such a pleasure ever since day one that I've known you. You are just such a kind, generous, lovely, understanding, collaborative, not only just a director, but a person, and I've always just admired you and respected you so much. And
likewise, Mona.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I feel like when I talk to you, there's this real, groundedness, and there's this humbleness to you. Do you think it just comes from years and years of like struggle where you're just like, yeah, I don't have any airs about this, what I do anymore. I just don't,
I mean, I definitely that, but I also think it's part of our makeup in the sense, for me, I mean, it's like, it's being an outsider always, right? Yes. It's like,
yes.
I grew up in Maine, which is, very, it's the whitest state in the country. It's like, we were the only minority, in our town. And so it's like, and not that there was any, like, I felt like real outward discrimination or anything like that, but you always feel like an outsider, just personally, your own self, your own,
that's right.
And I think that is probably where a lot of it just comes from.
Right. It just, I mean, there's a level of, I think this business will humble you unless you got lucky and, had your mom release a sex tape for you. If you don't have that, everybody else has to just get in the back of the line and work or create an OnlyFans account. That's also a thing that's happening now, apparently. But I think this business is just so hard and difficult. I mean, Mahesh, when you started out, and I know I asked this question to a lot of my South Asian artists, but was that a thing for your parents to be like, oh my God, you're going to go to film school? Like, there's no guarantee in that. There's no net in that. Why would you do that?
Well, I will say, I think, I do have very supportive parents. And that's so awesome. They do run a little bit different than the sort of stereotype of other South Asian parents. But I would say, definitely my mom's a doctor. My dad he was an entrepreneur in business. So they definitely had a feeling about, and they didn't have an understanding of what the entertainment industry is like. And so definitely more for my mom, I think she was more concerned about like, what is this going to be? Are you going to have a job when you get out? She was right. I didn't, right when I got out. So it's like, she's right. But I think they were also very supportive too, because they saw me from an early age. And I was one of those kids who had a video camera, at age like 10 or 12. I remember my dad brought home a video camera that he was going to use, but he never touched it. It was just me.
Yeah.
And so I was always making something, and I always wanted to do it. So I think they saw that I was just passionate about it, and I think they knew that if that's what I really wanted to do, and I kept doing it, then I think they were supportive. So that was what was great. But it was also hard too, like I said, just because there was definitely at that time there was no model for South Asians, definitely like in our community to say, oh, this person made it, and you can kind of do something similar to them. There was no model, so they didn't know what to say. And then the reality of it is that there's no path. It's really hard. So then, yeah, it was definitely tough for them.
Right.
Sure. But,
I mean, as artists, Mahesh, and we do all kinds of odd jobs. I mean, as I can tell you, as a stand-up and as an actor, like waiting tables or doing odd office job. I mean, is that kind of the same path and journey for directors?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, a little bit different. I mean, for me, like that sort of odd job ended up being a lot of like corporate shoots and things like that, where I would you'd be off somewhere shooting at some plumbers conference, like something like that, where it's work, it's paying money, but at the same time, it's like you're so far off when we talk about like that dream, you're so off path from what you want to do. But that's for my path, that's sort of been the detours that I've taken, whether it's like working in reality TV or like web content that way, or more of like the corporate kind of video branded shoot stuff. That's sort of the odd jobs for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you met your wife in film school, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, was she already living in America, or was she had come from India to go to film school?
Well, so Anu is like me. So she was born and raised in the US.
Okay.
She grew up in the US. She grew up in Illinois. But similarly, like, growing up, she did not see any role models, or we never saw any, on TV. So she was an actor, and she looked around and she said, I don't see a path for me. And this is, many years ago, but it was like, there wasn't a path. So she decided to go to India. And so she went to India, and she found some success there. So she was working there as an actor, but I think, but she was far from home, and she realized like she wanted to come back, and she also had an affinity for the stuff behind the camera instead of being in front of the camera. So then she wanted to be a director. So she went to AFI as well. So that's where we met. So she had been living in India for about 5 years, but she's American too.
I mean, when you guys saw each other in class, you were like, brown person.
Well, it is, the other brown person. I mean, we didn't date while we were in school. I mean, we definitely respected each other's work, and that was always a thing. But yeah, it's funny because like in the directing class, we were only two Indians and the South Asians in our class, so we definitely like gravitated toward each other's work that way, which was interesting.
Yeah, because you guys are also probably telling similar stories. You're also telling stories you can relate to each other.
Yeah, definitely to an extent. I mean, we definitely had similar things that sort of a sensibility. And since we also work together now professionally, like we wrote our feature film together. We've written other scripts together. So we do that. I mean, and I think we find that we do share a sensibility. It's like just how we get at it that's different. But it's definitely true that we definitely.
I mean, Mahesh, I would have to bring Anu on and talk to her, but Jesus, not to get into the darkness of this business, but, in America, we have unions. We have SAG-AFTRA, we have PGA, DGA, and you still have the likes of, Harvey Weinstein and all these predators. I cannot imagine what it is like to be an actress in Bollywood. Where there are no unions, whatsoever. There is literally no protection for an actress. Like for an actor, you're a male, so maybe you have a little bit more of a protection. But as a female, you're out just, fending off fucking wolves. Has Anu ever talked to you about that?
I mean, definitely I think things have changed in India too, right? There's a different kind of tenor of how people work there. But you're absolutely right. I mean, this is, it was pretty bad in the past. But for Anu, I mean, you'd have to speak to her specifically, but she never had anything, overt happen to her. But it was an environment where it's out there for sure.
Right. I mean, I mean, if who would have thought an overweight, ugly producer would be creepy like Harvey Weinstein? I mean, who would have thunk that? My God, he's like so hot to not look at. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Mahesh, now that you're directing, you've directed Blacklist. Are there? Are you seeing more opportunities coming up for you where you're like, oh, because I saw you direct that, Mahesh, why don't you come and direct this other TV show, or why don't you come and direct this film?
Yeah, I mean, well, definitely, there are a number of like films that I'm working on, so that definitely helps there. I mean, television, I think this is just sort of the beginning. I mean, I've only directed this one show, and we'll see. I think like now is the time where things are starting to open up a little bit. So we'll see if I can start navigating and getting onto other shows. I mean, the other thing you learn too is that every one of these things, whether it's feature films or TV, and then that's network TV and cable TV, there are all these little, pockets that you have to kind of navigate.
Right.
So yeah, I think so. I hope so. But it's sort of just the beginning of it for me in terms of network TV.
Yeah. I mean, Mahesh, you said that when you were younger, you were the only one picking up the camera and, making videos and stuff. I mean, do you still have those videos? And B, what got you even interested in it? Were you a kid that would sit in front of TV and be like, oh my God, how cool would it be to be a director or go like this? Because that's what directors do.
It's a really great. I mean, I do have those videos still, but I think I love movies just from an early age for sure. Like Star Wars, I was always watching those kinds of things. But and I don't really have an answer of like why I gravitated toward it. It just made sense to me. I think just that visual language, there was something like interesting and it just pulled me. So the second I remember like the first thing I shot with running around the house with the camera, and it's just like it felt natural and felt like something that I wanted. But I think like for me, honestly, it was part of the journey or the desire to be a filmmaker. One of it was, yes, it just felt natural. But the other thing was, I think it helped me in that sense of feeling like an outsider. I remember there were like two films that really like sort of changed my life and made me say, oh, this is what I want to do. And the first one was Do the Right Thing, directed by Spike Lee. Have you seen it?
Hell yeah.
Okay. Amazing film, and it's still holds up today, right? It's talking about everything we're dealing with. But the thing about that movie is I was way too young to see the movie when it came out, right? I was too young to see it, and it was also, I grew up in Maine, and I don't even know if the movie played there in Maine. Mm-hmm. But what blew my mind was that I knew about the movie and I knew who the director was, and I didn't even see the movie. And so then there was this power that I saw was happening. There's this person who had a point of view and who was able to tell it in this big way, and he was also talking about his community. And, I wasn't seeing that on TV. I wasn't seeing that in movies. And this person was able to do that. So that was definitely like a point where I felt like, oh, if he can do that, maybe I can do that. And that's what I would love to do. And then the second movie, there was a movie called Salam Bombay. Did you ever see that?
Yeah. A long time ago. Yeah.
Like her first, Mira and I's first film. And it's about street children in Bombay, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember...
that's a Mira and I film.
Yeah. And I remember it was like my high school English teacher that played it in our class, right? And it was so fascinating because it's a class, everyone's white except for me, and we're watching this movie about street children in Bombay in Hindi, right? And I remember watching it and feeling a connection to those characters on TV and looking around the room and realizing, I felt more of a connection to them than I did to the people around me. And what's crazy about it is I did not grow up on the street in Bombay, right? I am so far removed from that. I grew up in a small town in Maine, right? So like my existence is completely different, but I still had an affinity and a connection to them. And that just made me even more want to tell stories about people that look like us. And so I think those are the two things that just made me say, hey, I want to make films. I want to do this. And so that was what led me to NYU, because that's where Spike Lee went. And so that's where I wanted to go. And so that's sort of, I think, the beginning of like really when I wanted to be a director. I
mean, I wonder if the kids in class were just like, Mahesh, is that one of your cousins up there? What's going on?
Maybe. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how they felt about it, but I was so moved by the story and the characters
Yeah.
But so much of it was that it was set in Bombay, and I had not seen characters that looked like me on screen, even though I was never a street kid in Bombay. But but seeing someone brown on TV was such a powerful thing.
Yes.
But then it just was like, okay, I think I want to do that. So that's what I've been doing and trying to do in my own personal work. Obviously not the Blacklist, but my personal work has always been about telling stories with South Asians.
Yeah, I mean, Mahesh, do you know this affinity that you talk about, the storytelling part about, I want to tell stories. Do you feel, when Slumdog came out, Slumdog Millionaire, even Salam Bombay, have you felt like whenever there are movies that come out that are about South Asians or South Asian culture, but directed by white directors?
Yeah.
If it's a South Asian topic and a South Asian premise directed by a white director, it would get more notoriety, more appearance versus a brown film made by brown people.
Right. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, Slumdog's an interesting example, because there's definitely that foreign gaze that happens, right? Which is an outsider looking at something versus someone who's on the inside. We're talking about being an outsider, and that Danny Boyle is definitely an outsider. He's coming in.
And don't get me wrong, really well done movie.
No, yeah, I love the movie.
Really well done movie. Yeah.
But it's definitely a different point of view looking at the story. And, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say. I mean, yes, that film, more people saw that movie because he was the one that made it. I will say this, though. I think, which has been interesting, is just like watching Bollywood films and Western films. And for a long time, I think, there really was because even for me, I didn't grow up watching Bollywood films. I watched Hollywood films. I watched American films. And so watching Bollywood films, I never totally connected, and I always wondered why. It's like, why can't I not connect to this? And then I realized that there's just it's a different language of cinema. It's just like, speaking English or Hindi or Urdu. It's a different way of telling a story. It's a different type of storytelling. Whether it's even the way it's shot, the music, anything about it, it's just a different language. And now things are changing. Now you see, because so many filmmakers in India have come to the U.S. or just watch. Everyone watches everything. That now that divide is changing, so you can watch stuff there now, or I do, that feels like my language or feels like a hybrid. Yes. And now it gets more exciting. And so, like, I watch things that I love coming out of India. That are not Bollywood,
Me too. Yes, because they don't have the sing. Not that I love the singing, dancing numbers. Don't get me wrong. I love them. I grew up on them. But
it's not just that. Yeah,
it's not just that. They really focus on the writing. They really focus on telling the story. They're not these two-dimensional characters. These are the multi-dimensional characters that are flawed, but you still feel an affinity to them, and you're like, oh, I feel you, but you're also flawed, and I love this, but that's also so fucked up about you, and I love the complexity because human beings are complex creatures. I don't care what race you. I mean. People always talk about like, being white or brown or black. But if you really just kind of do this aerial shot of humanity, it's just people going about trying to meet their needs. That's it. That's it. Absolutely. Like, it's the human race. Like, just the aerial shot of it. It's just like, we may look around and be like, I'm brown, I'm white, I'm black, I'm whatever, right? But the aerial shot is people are just waking up every day trying to put food in their stomachs, roof over their heads, find happiness and find security. That's it. Unless you're Osama bin Laden, then fuck that guy. But besides that, most people are looking for happiness and just trying to meet their needs. Harpreet here. Hi, Harpreet. She has a question. She said, I'm listening from the point of view of design thinking, Mahesh, since you learned by experience of filming first as a kid and then going into the technicalities of it as an adult. Do you think you still follow that process when engaging with a new project? Experience before technical understanding.
Good question. Yeah, I think so. I think it's always those things. You start out something just by trying, right? And it is just you learn by experience.
Yeah.
And then in my case, it's like you go let's like film school. I went to a lot of film school, and so you have like a sort of training of a craft, right? And so you learn that, and then the goal though after is to kind of forget about that craft and to kind of go back to the sort of the experience of it that you had growing up, even though now you have all these other tools underneath you. So right now that's my goal. It's like I don't want to like think about, oh, do we need to be in a close-up now or not? I know about that, but it's something that's sort of based more in how I was making films before, just trying to experience something or just trying to go off a feeling or a gut instinct about something. I don't know if that totally answers, but that's sort of the way I think about it.
Right. I mean, Mahesh, would you go to India and do a project? Like, would you go and make a movie there?
Absolutely, I would love to. My wife Anu, she has a project that she's developing there.
Oh, that's great.
And I mean, there's just so many exciting things that happen back and forth, and I think we're all global, global citizens, right? We want to tell stories, and I think I would love to go to India and I have a project that's set there and here. And I'm really interested in that bridge from both places. So, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Harpreet has a follow-up question. Mm-hmm. She said, does it help to create a better narrative through first interacting with the subject before learning about it intellectually?
Oh, I don't know. I think you could do either. That's a good question.
Like throwing these curveballs.
I know. These are great questions.
Harpreet is like thinking this through.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that there's a better way. I don't know that there is. But I think it's whatever inspires you. Because for some people, it is like more of an intellectual pursuit, and others it is more through experience or interacting. So, I mean, and I've done both, right? Like maybe there's like a concept or an idea that's I'm fascinated by, which leads you to kind of creating something. Versus the other thing, which is like maybe it's an experience that I went through that then leads you to create something. So I think it's kind of both. That's what's fun about it.
Yeah.
Great question.
I mean, Mahesh, what is it like to be married to another director?
It's challenging at times because we both have egos, right? That's the biggest thing, right?
Listen, you know what, man? Kudos to you for saying that. Kudos to you for being so honest about that.
But yeah, no, I think it's challenging at times, but it's also like so rewarding too, because we both understand what this lifestyle is, what this job is. And so it's like the best way that we can kind of lean on each other. We, if Anu has something, I read it, I give her notes. She does the same thing for me. Then we can also work together or not work together. So it's great that way. But it is challenging in terms of a lifestyle because we're both in the same roller coaster thing.
Yeah.
And it's also difficult. And we also have 2 kids, and and I think Anu would probably say it now too. It's just been harder for her too in certain ways. Just
sure.
The way in terms of opportunities and all those kinds of things. So we're figuring it out, trying to see how we do it. But it's hard.
I mean, for you, like you guys both have your hands full with the kids and your careers. So in a way, like does Anu have to kind of take a seat back a little bit because she has to be home with the kids and just kind of put her projects on hold for a little bit until you get done with yours, and then she hands the kids off to you, and then she does, you guys like do a relay run with, like, kids. Like,
unfortunately, it ends up happening that way, and in the sense that like we have a 1-year-old now, so like the first year of his life, she's really been with him and taking care of him. And there are certain aspects of that I think would have been more challenging for me to do. And also there's maybe like, let's say this television route has been an opportunity for me. So those things happen, but now she may have an opportunity to develop a show of her own in India. And so like, this trade-off will start to happen, that we have to sort of navigate and figure out. But I think, that's the unfortunate part of it. and I think we fall into it where sometimes, Anu will be with the kids sometimes more than I am.
Mhm.
But we have to figure that out and change that in ways so that she has the opportunities too. But it's been difficult, for sure.
Right. I mean, this business is so difficult as it is, and then adding the kids factor to it, it has its own sets of challenges. But then you ask yourself, you're like, I've asked myself this. I'm just like, do I want children or do I want happiness? I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. I love kids. I really do. But I think for me as artists, especially as women, for us, we have a biological clock, right? My biological clock is going to stop ticking, pretty soon, right? I give it another 10 years as it's going to stop ticking, and that's fine. Let them fucking rot. Who cares? But, that being said, I mean, I think in terms of like where I sit, even as an actor, even as a stand-up comic, and I look at the opportunities that are given to a lot of, young male comics versus what will be given to me or offered to me, versus what will be offered to a white female comic versus what will be given to me. And I think in terms of, I'm just like, wow, like dudes can have kids till they're 85. So like, just wait it out. Like my ovaries are rotting now. Like let me achieve some kind of success so I can like pay for these friggin' diapers, because you can like have a child when you're like 90. So like let me have those opportunities. Am I wrong in thinking this, Mahesh?
Well, I mean, no, you're not wrong. In the sense that I I will say that, I think people are trying to change this, right? And you see it happening. And again, this is like just as a thing where you see more women in positions of power, like whether it's I have a friend who's a DP who is bringing her daughter to set to nurse,
Wow.
and then there's other friends who I know who have a program where there's a trailer for on set for childcare, so you can bring your kids, because that's a huge problem, right? If we don't have childcare, like. Then you fall into these traps of gender roles where it's like, oh, well, is my wife going to stay home with the kids and I'll go to work, which is really hard. But if we can change that, where, okay, well, you can bring we can bring our kids to work. They can be in the trailer. I can do that. She could do that. We could both work. So I think those things people are trying to change it, but yeah, it's a big hurdle that is still out there.
Yeah. I mean, I forget. I think it was Guardians of the Galaxy. Zoe Saldana was shooting it.
Yeah.
You know who she is, right? The actress. Yeah. And she talked about it in an interview where she was like, my agent went and had to go and fight for childcare.
Yeah.
For the studio to pay for childcare. She's like, how am I supposed to go to work as a working mom when I don't have childcare? Well, I mean, why should I have to pay out of pocket for it when I can just bring my kid on set with childcare, Yeah.
And it makes you happier. I mean, and I think that's the other thing. It's like, I think if we change that environment, whether it's on sets and things like that, I mean, it's better for everyone. And it's not just directors and actors. It's like the crew, like if you have more time with your family and you have more time, it's better for everybody. It's better for you as an artist. It's better for you. It's all those things. It's safer. It's all. It's all. I don't know why. Yeah, I think it has to change. It is moving in that direction very slowly. Yeah. But I think people realize that, but it'll only change when there are more women who are in positions of power who are making these decisions. So that has to happen. And that will happen. But,
Right. Harpreet has a question. She said, do you approach new projects with a focus on the question or problem to be solved? Or do you look at it as a way to present solutions that you want to disseminate? Looking at your completed projects, which ones were more impactful or met your objective? The problem, focused, or solution presentation?
Okay. Wow.
These are extensive. Like
these are great questions. I guess I don't approach it from if there's like a problem to solve. I guess I don't think of it that way. Sometimes I think, and maybe this is the same way to get at your question, but people talk about do you start with a theme when you work on a project, or does the theme come later? And for me, it's always later. I think about character, and then circumstance, and then actions, and then they define what the theme is, and then it's almost like they define what the quote unquote lesson is, or the problem, or the solution to a problem. But I don't start usually with a problem, if that makes sense. So
because your projects are very character driven.
They're character, yeah. So that's true. So most of them are character driven. So that is definitely that. And those are the projects that I like too. So yeah, so that's sort of how I come to things.
I mean, Mahesh, are you going to take Brahmin Bowls back out, like take it to Amazon or Netflix and be like, hey, I made this project. Would you guys?
We just, so we did a virtual screening at a festival recently, like a few weeks ago. And it's been a long time since we screened the movie. And it was sort of an interesting thing. It was like, 8 years since we made the movie, right? So, and we did like a virtual screening at this festival, South Asian Film Festival of America. And what was great about it is that, watching the film, and I think with the virtual audience, the film still holds up. And I think it also, I think a lot of people were like, oh, I didn't know that it was made 8 years ago. It kind of feels still relevant today. So I think we will try, I think we will try to do something if we can. But it's, I don't know. I mean, I think there are more opportunities now to get a film out than what it was 8 years ago. So I'd be excited to see what that is. But it's interesting. I hope so. I would love to have more people see the movie, because I don't. Yeah. We weren't able to get the distribution that we wanted then.
Yeah. I mean, Mahesh, what is it like behind the scenes? Like being in your position, being a producer, director, like, is it supportive? Even among other South Asian directors and producers, are you guys very much like, hey, I'm working on this project. Hey, man, I love to come and work. Or, hey, let me connect you to so-and-so. Is it like that level of camaraderie? Because God knows on camera, it can get a little bit challenging, right? People get very competitive. People are like, oh, I don't want to tell this person. But what is it like behind the cameras?
It's a little bit of both. But I think, again, this thing is changing. And I noticed it happen where, like I've been doing this for a long time. And I feel like for a long time, I felt like, oh, I'm alone on this little island, and I'd look out and every once in a while I'd see someone else who's also South Asian. Let's say Sharath, right? Sharath's another one. We're the same age, and like he's on another island over there, and I think for a long time it was like this thing where we were kind of separate, trying to do some things, and then that can sometimes be competitive in the way that like, oh, if they have an opportunity, then I'm not going to get an opportunity. That kind of feeling could happen. But I think the truth is that that's not really the reality. And I think what I'm seeing now, and this is what was great about even this film festival, is because it was just seeing all of this South Asian talent. There's so many filmmakers and we're all out here trying to make it. Some of us are making it now. That it's like more and more of us are coming together to work on each other's stuff. So, for instance, as of like I don't know, a week and a half ago, I had at a Zoom meeting with some two producers who are interested in a project that I'm doing, along with a collaborator that I'm working on. So it's 4 brown people on a screen, and this was for, producers to make a movie, and these are people that I knew about. These are people that I knew, but finally, like, we're coming together to work on something. So I think that's happening more and more now, because it's empowering, I mean, you see that happening in other communities, and I think within our South Asian community, it hasn't quite happened, but it's happening now, I hope. And you're starting to see it. You're starting to see like other projects happen and people kind of come together. So I hope that it stops being, because it's not, that the, rising tide raises all ships. I think that's right. Totally true, know? Right. And there are more opportunities if more of us make it. And so I think that finally is happening, or the idea has shifted so that is happening. At least I hope.
Yeah. I mean, you know what it is, Mahesh? I mean, do you feel like, when you write projects and you bring them to studios and networks, is there, I feel sometimes, not sometimes, I think a lot of times, that when stories of, mostly because it's been predominantly white actors and white stories and, white narrative. I love white people. I don't have anything against white people.
Me too.
I think the point that I'm trying to make is that the fact that you feel like Hollywood executives put more value of that it's a more human or more mainstream story if it is all white people versus, a diverse cast or the lead is a brown or a black person,
Yeah, I mean, I think that is changing. And that probably was that was the case for sure. 5-10 years ago, definitely. But now, and then you can argue like it comes down to, money, so where are the audiences, who's watching stuff and who's paying for it? And we're becoming.
Look at Crazy Woke Asians, right?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, there's no money. Crazy Woke Asians broke box office, didn't it? It made a shit ton of money.
Exactly. Look at Black Panther, right? It's like any of these movies, and all of a sudden the floodgates open. It's like, oh, there's an audience there. Okay, so now we can. So it follows the money, of course, but that is happening. But it's also like you look in television, right? Over the last 5 to 7 years, you would see like in every show there is a South Asian character, right? They're always like a secondary or third character. They're not the main character. Sure. Even in the show about doctors, they are somewhere else on the side, right? They're not the main character. But why is that? And part of that is, well, there's a South Asian, audience that's buying BMWs and Mercedes. So they're paying for that, right? And so now I think that's changing. You're going to see more and more, and you see it like with shows like Never Have I Ever, which is really popular.
Sure. Mindy had to create that. Listen, nobody was going to give Mindy the Mindy Project.
She totally made that happen. She worked,
Mindy worked her ass off. I have so much respect for Mindy.
I do too.
She's incredible what she's done. No, but I think, and the only reason that she was able to even do something like Never Have I Ever and have this incredible brown cast in the show as well, I mean, that's because she built that for herself.
No, absolutely, 100%. And she, she's like one of the people at the forefront, right? So it's the hardest thing for that, right? For her, she made that happen. And now it's, I won't say easier, but there are avenues now for other people. I mean, and other people like Nisha Ganatra, I don't know if you know her. Or
love Nisha.
She's like another, she's been at it for a long time, right?
That's right.
But now she's at a point where, she can create shows, and she is. And so she's making shows with South Asians as leads, and studios are looking to her. So, it's not like they were the ones that like broke down these doors. They're the ones that are doing it.
Yes.
But it is changing. I do think like now people are more receptive and more open to having stories that are diverse. I mean, let's say Brahmin Bulls. I remember like just going to pitch that kind of a movie, and it's Brahmin Bulls. I mean, other than the title, it's not an Indian film. It's a story about fathers and sons. It's about long lost loves. It's very universal. It's set in LA. So there's nothing like specifically Indian about it other than the fact that the leads are Indian.
Sure.
But that was like definitely like, if you went to pitch to someone, why do they have to be Indian? That was like, a main question. And the truth was like, well, they don't have to be, but they are. That's reality.
But I guess the same question could be posed then, why does the lead of that show has to be white?
Totally. Yeah. Well,
I mean, it goes both ways, right? Yeah.
And that's what's changing now is I think, and even a flip, I think they want it, and again, that is following maybe the money or the time, but it is now there's like, there better be, someone who's diverse in the cast. But hopefully now the shift is even not just as a secondary character or a third character, it's now the lead. I hope
do you think Mahesh, it has something to do with, I think definitely stereotypes definitely play a role in it. However, do you think there's also this thing where all brown people are this way? They're just all these people, all black people are this way, all brown people are this way, all Asian people are this way. So it removes that individuality. Totally. So then you're just like, oh, every brown person, love spicy food. Well, I have tons of brown people who don't like spicy food, right? This is a stupid, silly topical example. But do you think it has to do with not looking at us as individuals and recognizing our humanity rather than lumping us and brushing us with one giant stroke?
100%. That's exactly what it is. Until you move beyond that, then it becomes stereotypical, right? That's what we, have seen for so long. But yeah, we're not a monolith. I mean, like,
right.
I didn't know very many Indians from Maine. We're all individuals. We're all very different. I mean, your story, Mona, is so different from, it's like, and I think that's hopefully, and hopefully that's what we get to. I think we're starting to see that more and more with South Asian films, Asian films. It's like moving beyond stereotypes for sure.
Right.
And now we're becoming more individuals, more people.
Yeah. James has a question. Yeah. He said, was the episode Mahesh directed the one that was interrupted by the lockdown and they used animation to fill in missing scenes, or the previous one?
Good question, James. Yeah. No, my episode was what happened was my episode was the last episode to fully film. But it was an episode that was a little bit different from the main narrative of the story. So they couldn't use it as the finale. It had to air earlier. So my episode was it was the last full one to shoot, but it was the third to last to air. So it was episode 717 that had Anthony Michael Hall in it. So it was a very different episode for the Blacklist, but it was
Dexter was in it?
No, not Dexter. Anthony Michael Hall, he was in Breakfast Club and all these great 80s movies, and wonderful actor.
Okay. Awesome. I mean, do you ever get kind of starstruck when you get on and you're just like, oh my God, I grew up watching this guy and now I have to direct him. This is madness.
Well, even, so James Spader. I love James Spader. He's an amazing actor, and he's been
great.
Films that I love.
He's
and so it's interesting to be on something. It's intimidating at first because you're like, well, he knows what he's doing. He's been around for a long time. Am I going to be able to give him any notes? But then, you realize pretty quickly, though, it's like, as long as for me, it's as long as I'm engaged in the story and I'm coming from the story perspective. I mean, that's what everyone wants, and that's what everyone wants to make a better episode, a better show. I mean, he was totally receptive to me. We had great conversations, and so then, that intimidation quickly goes out the window. But definitely at first, because you're like, oh, what am I going to say to this guy?
Right? He's
great.
He's been around doing this for a lot longer than I have.
Yeah, and he knows that character way better than I do. What am I going to say to him? But
right.
But then you find the language, and then there are things that help. What's it, James Spader? Yeah, no, he's amazing, and there's a reason why. He's just, you watch him work, and he's such an incredible presence, and he's an incredible actor.
If I'm not mistaken, James Spader briefly lived in the building that I used to live in New York City.
I love it.
Yeah. I also had New Kids on the Block who used to live in my building too briefly.
Where'd you live?
I don't know, 53rd and 7th. As I like to call it, my golden prison.
Your golden prison, yeah.
My golden prison. Yeah, I mean, it's so different now, Mahesh. I mean, I am very excited where where Hollywood is headed. Do you think, Mahesh, this whole thing that I feel that South Asians, even Latinx, I feel like the conversation about representation in front of the camera and behind the camera and diversity in Hollywood was really a case that was made by mostly Black artists.
Yeah.
It was really Black artists, like somebody like Spike Lee. I mean, totally. Remember Oscar So White? You remember that hashtag Oscar So White? That was like the first wave of hey, what's going on here? Why is are there no other people of color that are doing work? I mean, for God's sake, what is going on? And then the second wave of, hey, diversity matters, representation matters. Do you think that we are riding the wave that is created by Black artists?
For sure.
I think we owe a real great deal of gratitude to Black artists in front of the camera and behind the camera, don't you think?
Totally. 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question about that.
Yeah, because I think, because black artists just don't talk about, hey, black artists, but they say people of color. So people of color includes everyone who is not white, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that includes us. Mahesh, do you, are you working on projects right now that are primarily, are they TV shows? Are they films? What are you working on?
I mean, so personal projects are films that I'm working on. Like I don't think in terms of story, in terms of a TV idea. Just that's such a longer form thing for me. I still think in like that 2-hour format, which I love. And like you said, it's like all character based. So this is just the way I think. So that's what I'm working on. I have like 3 different projects that are just all movies, and they all have South Asians in it. That's like the
right, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you gonna go and are you gonna fund it out of your pocket, or are you gonna go get some production team?
Oh, hopefully not. No, I mean, this one project that I'm really excited by. I hope it's a timely story. It's about a hate crime that happened, which is based on a true story. So I think it's a timely story. It's a story that I think needs to be told now, and I think we are going to be able to get people interested. But we're just starting to go out now to like get people involved. So.
Yeah.
But I can't fund it. I can't do that.
I mean, it's so expensive to try to go and fund your own project. I mean,
movies are so expensive.
They're so expensive. It's like, what am I gonna like sell my house just to friggin' make this movie? That's ridiculous. What am I?
I've been making
Francis Ford Coppola. What am I? I said, what am I? Francis Ford Coppola. What am
I? Yeah, no, it's your. I mean, I do. I've made a few like short films recently. Which in just like a way to refresh myself, just to like have fun again. And those are completely no budget. I shoot it myself. So it is going back to me being 12 years old where I just run around with a camera. And that's been really rewarding and fun. But yeah, I couldn't fund like a real production. That would be.
I mean, it's ridiculous what it would cost out of pocket. Harpreet has another question. She says, as a design education practitioner, I'm taking advantage of access to Mahesh's time, so hope it's not annoying. No,
not annoying.
Do you have a formula or parameters emerged through experience and that you rely on as a foundation for any new film initiative? Share some of those elements of comfort zone. Harpreet is like channeling Christian Amanpour right now.
Yeah. Do I have any?
These are like fucking grad school questions, dude.
These are.
Jesus. I think I'm getting a grad degree right after.
I know. I need to get some honorary Mona Shake.
I'm gonna have a certificate ready for you. I'm gonna write this out.
Do I have? Well, I don't think I do. Like parameters, other than something has to move me, right? That's the main thing, I think. And if I'm getting the question, if I'm understanding it correctly, but it's like, okay, you're popping it back up. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a formula of parameters emerged through experience and that you rely on as a foundation for any new film initiative? Share some of those elements of comfort zone.
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
I'll take.
No.
I'll take 500 for comfort zone, please.
No, I don't think there is. I don't think there's any like sort of parameters or things a formula that I use. I mean, like a lot of like things happen for me, like just as far as ideas, things that I read, whether it's so there's like, well, I guess there's 3 things, right? There's like books and stories that I read. There's like real life things that happen that I see or read about, and then there's personal experience, right? So I guess those are the 3 things. And I don't know. It's whatever story kind of moves me. And it's interesting too. It's like always the thing that you kind of keep coming back to. It takes a long time to make movies or come up with things. And Moni, this, like, it takes years. And so, and I always have a logbook of ideas and things. And it's always the things that kind of keep coming back to, even like 5 years later. And it's like, oh, that's still around. That's something I'm still thinking about. And so if there's any formula or parameter, I guess maybe it's that. It's just kind of a,
right.
Kind of what are the things that keep sticking around in your head and get you excited? So,
right. I mean, Mahesh, are you very big on? Do you consider yourself more of a drama director or a comedy, or it doesn't matter to you?
I feel more drama, or dramedy. I mean, I think because definitely, I think with drama, you have to have comedy too, right? There's no,
Yeah.
if something is dramatic, then you also need comedic moments. So there's a balance between the two. But am I like a broad comedy person? No, definitely not. I don't think I'm cut out for that. But definitely like more drama or dramedy, I think is where I kind of lay.
Yeah. I mean, Mahesh, do you feel I think I'm gonna bring it back and ask you, I've had female director friends on the live stream here. And they've told me that some actors give them a hard time. They straight up just give them a hard time because they're female directors. Yeah. I had one female director tell me when she showed up, they directed her to the arts and crafts table because they thought that she was the arts and crafts person.
Yeah.
She was like, no, I'm the fucking director. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, that's awful.
Is that something like you as a, South Asian director, do you experience something like that where they're like, hey, we needed some IT help. Yeah. Come this way. You're like, I'm not the IT help. I'm the director.
Yes, to an extent. I mean, I don't know if it's as overt as what your other, the other person had experienced, which is awful. But I think I do sense it like in the beginning, like, oh, who are you? Oh, you're going to be directing this episode. Okay. All right. There's a second of a moment where they have to kind of think about it for a second. And I do feel that, but it's not that overt for me. Luckily I've not had any of those experiences, which would be awful.
Right. I mean, it just, I think, in comedy, I mean, it's pretty much for women. It's kind of everywhere. What about your wife? Has Anu ever, as a director, come home and just be really pissed off about something and be like, I cannot believe?
I mean, she's definitely experienced things that I've never had to experience before.
Such as?
Well, she'd have to tell you these things. but yeah, I mean, it's definitely harder for women, I think.
Right.
And again, it's changing, but like you go to a set and it's 90% men who are on the set.
It's dudes. It's just a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of dudes. And that's really hard. It's one thing to be just a South Asian male coming in where maybe you're different, but I can't imagine being South Asian and a female or Black and a female coming into that world. Right. It's got to be doubly hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as female comics, also if you're, a woman of color, female comic, there's this, somehow people just expect you to like represent your entire race. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't represent 1.2 billion people. Like, that's a lot of people to represent. Yeah. Like sometimes I've been asked are all Pakistani women like feisty like you? I don't fucking know. I don't even know all the Pakistani women. Like, why are you asking me this? I don't know, I don't know. Or being weirdly like fetishized in a way where you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Well, it's just it's different. I don't know. It's different, Mahesh. It's very different. The documentary that you did on me, which was lovely, and we had such a great time. We went to San Diego, and you taped me, and we talked about. This is when Trump had just come into power, right?
That's right. Yeah.
This is the Trump tragedy era, and you and I what was fascinating about that, Mahesh, and I think I had mentioned to you my experience when the film was the doc was being showcased at a certain festival in San Francisco, where I had encountered two South Asian male comics who couldn't stand the fact that I also had a documentary in addition to them. And they just felt that, somehow my documentary was threatening their documentary.
Yeah, and
which is insane. I mean, one of them, referred to me as a whore to my face while I was there. Tushar Singh. And the other one, fuck that guy. And the other one, was also making, demeaning remarks. I mean, Mahesh, is that something that you've ever experienced in your career, ever, where somebody has just, and it doesn't matter if they're whether of the same race as you or somebody of the opposite race, come and be so overtly disrespectful to your face like that.
No, nothing like that. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy that you had to experience that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of, it's interesting, that even that we're in America, and even though these are supposed to be like woke guys, that they would behave such way,
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts on Priyanka Chopra? Like, Priyanka is here, she's a white tiger. I don't know if you got a chance to watch
movie.
it. Yeah. And I watched it. I thought the lead actor is amazing. I thought the story was fabulous. And I think what was amazing was after I watched it, I was like, wow, this guy, without giving it away, this dude does some horrific things, but you still root for him. That is strange. Like, you're doing, like, they just really hook you into this character. It's a very character-driven project, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that movie. I thought it was great. For everything you said, And what's interesting about that movie too, it's directed by Ramin Barani, who's Iranian American.
That's right.
I mean, he went to college with Arvind Adiga, the writer of the book. So they've been friends for a long time. Even the book is dedicated to Ramin Barani. So they've known each other for a long time. But it's fascinating to watch that movie because it is made with a gaze or lens, but the material is written by an Indian. Everyone in it is Indian. So there's an interesting marriage that happens. I love the movie. I thought it was great.
Yeah. I mean, not that, I think Priyanka executive produced it. She's in it as well. A lot of people do this thing where they're just like, oh, now Priyanka Chopra is here, so there'll be more doors that will open. There'll be more opportunities. Is that the case, Mahesh?
Wait, that more doors will be open for
South Asian artists?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's and those are the people, whether it's Mindy Kaling or whoever who's opening up those doors. I mean, it makes it more accepting, right? So I do think so. I do think Priyanka Chopra now, she's a brand. She has power. She can get movies made or TV shows made, and she's earned that. And so yeah, I think her being able to do that and create more opportunities for other South Asians, I think, and she has. There's a movie on Amazon called Evil Eye.
Yeah, that's Rajiv and Alan Dasani.
Yeah, and so she allowed that or she made that opportunity happen too. And so that's opening more doors for other South Asian artists and creators. So yeah, I think having her in a position of power, more people like her, it's just going to change.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated I come across South Asians who just don't like Priyanka Chopra, and it fascinates me. Yeah. I think what fascinates me is like, whether you love her or hate her, you can't deny the fact that she has put, Desis or South Asians on the map in a very, very big way, because she came with this star power from India where, something that Mahesh, that you have been struggling for 20 years, I've been struggling for such a long time. We would never be given that kind of platform. No. But it's only because she came with millions of followers to America that she was even given that level of, status.
But it's interesting because she's a lot of people have tried to do it, right, from India. And she's the first one who's successfully really been able to do it. There really hasn't, there hasn't been anyone else. I mean, I don't know Priyanka's exact. I think she grew up here in the U.S. too, didn't she? I think she was born in India, but she grew up here. She went to high school here, and then she went back.
And then went back. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But yeah, but I think there have been many others who tried, and I think she was really smart about doing it too. She went on an ABC network show, and she she was in everybody's household, and people were watching her, and like.
Right.
People who didn't know who Priyanka Chopra was all of a sudden knew who she was, and then now she's where she is. So,
but I wonder, Mahesh, if what Priyanka was trying to do, if she had tried to do that 10 years before, I don't think it would have worked.
I don't think it would have worked. I think
the timing was right.
I think other people tried, and I don't think they were able to do it
because the timing was right.
Yes.
It was like, oh, now there's all this conversation about diversity and inclusion. It's just like, okay, who do we have? Who do we have with the star power who can really come in and, do the job? And also, I think her PR machine is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah. But she also, I feel like she even did it before really the conversation about diversity started happening. I feel like that show, Quantico, kind of came out before. So yeah, I really think she's like a trailblazer because she was able to do it. I don't,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
Yeah. I think maybe, I know that Quantico only ran one season?
I don't know. I thought it was a few seasons. I never really watched it, but I think it was a few seasons.
No, Mahesh, you never watched Quantico?
Maybe the pilot. I watched the pilot, but that's it.
What did you think of the pilot?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. It was good. I liked it for what it was. I liked it, but yeah. It didn't grab me. It didn't keep me though.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't know. I just feel I feel like now, like Priyanka's a type. So when I see breakdowns, sometimes it's like we're looking for a Frida Pinto type. We're looking for a Mindy Kaling type. We're looking for a Priyanka Chopra type. So I'm just like, well, I don't fit in any of those.
Yeah. I mean, what's hard now is I think because there are so few that have broken out, into like sort of the mainstream that, unfortunately they become like the models of all this, for everybody. Right. And that's unfortunate because like there's so many of us who are not in that model, in that mold. And so it'll just take some time, but it's what you were saying. It's like, we're not a monolith. We're like individuals. And I think you're seeing it happen too. It's like, I feel like I remember seeing whether it was, on certain shows, there'd be a character that would have an American name, right? But they would have open casting, right? And they would have, maybe it's an Indian actor, but they would still have the American name. And then you're like, well, what are you doing? And then now finally I'm starting to see, it's actually an Indian name, So either they've written that, they're casting for Indian, or they've now cast an Indian and they're going to change the name. They're going to change their ethnicity. But like, so that's happening. It's starting to change. And I think there'll be more opportunities for more South Asians. And when that happens, then it's no longer just, we're looking for Priyanka Chopra and Mindy Kaling. We're looking
That's
for,
right. That's right. Mahesh, would you want your kids to go in this business?
That's a good question. I mean, not necessarily. But I also definitely don't want to be a parent that is driving them away from anything that they want to do. The thing that's tough in LA, because we live here in LA, is that like they're surrounded by it, and especially with parents that are in it, then that's what they see. So it'll be interesting to see what they like and or want to do. But it's not something that off the bat that I would encourage them to do unless they have a passion for it.
I mean, you wouldn't. Yeah, if your daughter's like, "Hey, I want to be a child actor," like, is that something that you would be like, "Oh my God, no"?
I mean, I think unless she is so passionate about it, in which case we'd have to think about it. But it's not something that I would encourage. It's hard. It's a hard life, and it's a hard. I think it's a hard industry in terms of just like self-image and all those kinds of things, and those are things that I worry about. So I want to away, but
yeah. I mean, I can't imagine as a parent, it must be so hard. Like if your kid is like, well, I want to be in commercials, and she's like 8 years old, you're like, I'm not so sure if you should do that right now. It's so difficult as adults to take rejection. I can't imagine as a kid what it does to you.
Yeah, I can't imagine. No.
I mean, I've been in therapy for 13 years trying to deal with this shit. For God's sake, I have to now stock up on weed just to get through it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how much money goes in therapy and weed just to keep this alive right now? A lot of money goes into it. This face ain't gonna preserve itself. It's all that weed. It's that weed Botox, baby.
That's what I need now. Oh my goodness.
The weed?
Yeah.
Do you partake?
I don't.
Because of the kids? Because kids are at home?
No, I mean, no, it's not really anything that I mean, maybe like when I was younger, but not in any recent.
Well, I started late.
That's it. That's
because they were like, when you're young, it kills your brain cells. I'm like, you can't kill something that's not there. Hello. That's not gonna work. Mahesh, we're gonna wrap up, my friend. What's on the agenda? So are they bringing you back for another episode to direct?
we'll see. I mean, so my episode airs tomorrow, so it'll be fun to watch. I think it turned out well. I think they like it. So
what time is
8
it?
o'clock, NBC.
Awesome.
So hopefully I go back for another episode. But then I'm just looking to see, like, hopefully this leads to more opportunities in TV, and then I have some features that I'm really excited by. So I'm hoping that this year I get to make another one.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That was really nice. Okay.
Yeah, Harpreet is great. Mahesh, do you like people to follow you on social media at all? Are you a social media person at all, or?
Sort of. Sure. But I don't. It's not like I'm posting all the time or anything like that.
Yeah, because you have like shows to direct and movies to make. Do you like people to follow you, or no pressure if you don't?
No, it's totally fine. Not that I really post that much, other than my kids. So if you want to see my kids, that's the good one.
And where can they follow you, on Facebook or where?
Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. I still have a Twitter account.
That's right, you do. I tagged you on Mahesh Pailoor. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. See, like I'm still. Yeah.
Yeah. I tagged you there, but I understand you don't really use it much. But yeah, I totally tagged you there. I totally tagged you. Mahesh, this was a great conversation, my friend. Thank you very much for coming on.
It's good to see you. I'm glad we could.
Always great to see you. I am fully vaccinated. Did you get vaccinated yet? Half. Yeah. I am fully.
That's awesome. Congrats. Wait, as of today?
Still a little sore. No, it's been 2 weeks already.
Nice. So you're like in the clear.
I did the Johnson & Johnson, one and done, baby.
One and done. Okay, yeah. I got our second one in next weekend.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Do you feel like not just in terms of like literally, but just in terms of like
feel like it fly?
More freedom? Do you feel?
Yeah, for sure. Way more freedom. I went up at the Laugh Factory last Saturday.
Oh, wow. Wait, they're doing shows there? I didn't even know.
Yeah, but not like inside. It was just for a benefit show for Stop Asian Hate benefit show.
Yeah.
So I was a part of that. Then I did another show at the Comedy Chateau, which is another comedy club in North Hollywood. So yeah, it's just comedians. It's just comedians.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, things are opening up. It's going to happen more.
It's so weird, man. It's so wobbly. Like when you get on stage, you're like,
Yeah. What? Well, it's going to be culture shock.
Yeah. It's so like you just get up there, you're like, I don't know how to do comedy.
Yeah.
You're just.
You're used to this now. It's like we're just going to chat over.
Yeah, I'm just like, why can't I do comedy in my pajamas? Like, why do I have to take a shower and show up for this? This is bullshit. You're like just so spoiled. Mahesh, I hope to see you and the kids soon.
I know. It's great. All right, Mona, we will.
All right, my friend.
Almost there.
Thank you very much. Give my love to your kids.
All right.
And the wife. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks. That was a lovely Mahesh Pailoor. I know you guys enjoyed that conversation. I definitely did. I will be back tomorrow with a brand new guest. You guys, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. You can go to youtube.com/Mona Sheikh Comedian. Same for Facebook and for TikTok. Although I need to post more on TikTok. And also on Instagram and Twitter at Mona's Comedy. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new guest. Have a good evening. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a good night.